I once saw a guy I went to high school with walking toward me across a parking lot, 40 yards away, basically a football field. And in that stretch of pavement, my brain opened a full case file. Do I wave now? Too early. Looks desperate. Do I wait? Fine. But what do I do with my face for the next 35 yards? Look at my phone? Classic move. But what if he's already clocked me looking and now I look like I'm hiding? By the time he got close enough to actually say something, I had aged 4 years standing still. Here's the strange part. This isn't a me problem. The internet is packed with people confessing the exact same 40-yard breakdown, which means somewhere between I see you and hello. Almost everyone's brain quietly loses its mind. There's a reason for that, and it's not random. The second you spot someone you know at a distance, your brain doesn't treat it like a greeting, it treats it like a threat that needs a plan. It opens what I'm going to call the approach window, the gap between recognition and contact, and it decides that gap has to be filled with a strategy, a face, a move, something. The problem is there's no correct strategy for high, there never was. So your brain just starts generating options under pressure. The same threat response machinery it would use if you were being chased, except the thing chasing you is a guy from accounting, and the distance between you is closing at a walking pace, not a sprint, which somehow makes it worse. You have time to think, and thinking is exactly the problem. Take my old coworker. Hadn't talked to her in 2 years, spotted her from the cereal aisle before she saw me. 30 seconds to plan. I decided the move was to act surprised when we crossed paths naturally in the next aisle. Big, oh my gosh, high energy. Except she turned down a different aisle. So I rerouted my entire shopping trip, cereal to produce, just to intercept her and execute the surprised high I had already rehearsed in my head. That's the approach window, doing exactly what it does. Nobody needed a plan here. She just wanted to say hi to a friend she used to be close with. But once the window opened, it demanded a script, and she followed that script through 2 full aisles of a grocery store like it was a tactical objective with a deadline. The plan wasn't for her benefit, and it definitely wasn't for the coworkers. It was for the window, or my neighbor, coming toward me on the same sidewalk. Nice guy. We've talked plenty of times. Zero history. My brain still filed it under emergency. I looked down at my shoelaces like they'd personally betrayed me, bent down, pretended to retie them. He walked past. I have no idea if he saw. I have not made eye contact with him since. It's been 4 months. 4 months of avoiding a man over an 8-second shoelace performance he may not have even witnessed. And here's what gets me. Even mid-crouch, some part of his brain had to know this wasn't going to work. He's still going to walk past you. You're just going to be a guy tying his shoes for no reason. He did it anyway. That's the approach window, overriding logic in real time. Sometimes the window doesn't produce a plan, it produces a malfunction. Saw my ex's best friend at the mall, never close, but friendly enough that ignoring her felt worse than acknowledging her. Eye contact from 20 feet. Panic. I did the double point and finger guns combo. Hey you. She had no idea who I was pointing at. I finger gunned a stranger in a food court. The finger guns are the tell. Nobody, in the history of finger guns, has ever looked cool doing finger guns. They're not a greeting. They're what your hand does when your brain runs out of approved responses and just starts firing whatever's loaded. Somewhere out there is a woman eating Panda Express who got pointed at by a stranger with a face full of confidence and no plan behind it, and she will think about that moment for the rest of her life without ever knowing why it happened, who it was for, or what she supposedly did to earn it. Sometimes the window gets weird because the location's wrong. Saw a guy from my gym at Target. We nod at each other constantly at the gym. Totally normal relationship, zero ambiguity, inside the building. Outside the building, in the cleaning supplies aisle, I did not know what we were to each other. Are we nod guys everywhere, or just on a treadmill? I got very interested in a bottle of Windex, read the whole label. He said, "Hey man," walking by. I said, "Yep, to hello." That's the window collapsing under a context switch. The relationship only existed inside a specific building, and the second it stepped outside, the rules dissolved so completely that when a normal human being did the normal human thing, my brain couldn't even produce a real word. Just the sound a vending machine makes when it's sold out. Sometimes the window makes you build a prop. Saw my old boss downtown. Job I quit 2 years ago. A little awkward, but nothing serious. 15 seconds to decide. I went with fake important phone call, phone to ear. Nobody on the line. Serious nodding, like I was hearing bad news. He walked past without even looking over. I had a full fake conversation, alone, on a public sidewalk, for an audience that was never watching. That's the most honest one, because the threat was never real. He wasn't running any calculations about me. He had his own version of this happening, in his head all day, and I wasn't in a single frame of it. You build an entire performance for somebody, and they were already looking somewhere else. And sometimes the window closes on you before you're even ready for it. Bumped into my cousin at the airport. Love her. No tension at all, except I'd just woken up from a plane nap, and my brain hadn't rebooted yet. She said, "Hey," and hugged me. My brain grabbed the nearest phrase off the shelf without checking if it made sense, and said, "You too." She said, "Hi." I said, "You too," like she'd sneezed. If you've ever heard the wrong words come out of your own mouth in real time and been powerless to stop them, that's the window slamming shut faster than your brain could load the correct response. Here's the part that actually matters though. Every single person in these stories was convinced they were the only one under observation. The coworker thought she'd been caught rerouting. The neighbor thought his shoelaces gave him away. The boss never even looked up. Nobody was running the audit you assumed they were running, because they were too busy running their own. Every stranger walking toward you has their own approach window open right now, deciding whether to wave, whether to speed up, whether their face is doing something normal, whether their last 3 seconds looked as insane from the outside as they felt on the inside. You're not being watched with the scrutiny you're imagining, you're being mirrored. The guy 40 yards away is having his own identity crisis about you, and neither of you will ever compare notes, because the second the window closes, everyone pretends it was never open at all. So next time you spot someone you know from a distance, skip the window entirely. Don't plan the face. Don't plan the sentence. Don't retie anything that isn't already untied. The plan was never going to make it smoother anyway. It was just going to give your brain more time to build something worse. Just wave, the second you recognize them, before the case file has time to open. Worst case, they don't wave back, and you get a slightly embarrassing story to tell later. Best case, you save yourself 40 yards of a negotiation nobody else even knew was happening, over a hello that was never actually complicated until you made it that way. Say hi first. Close the window before it opens.